What's up, everybody? I'm your host, Joseph, and welcome to Fictioning Flow. Today, I am talking about Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania. So this is a spoiler review. It'll be a brief one, but make sure if you have not seen the movie yet, do not watch this video right now. Go ahead and see the movie, then come back and check it out. So I want to give my honest review after I have just seen Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania. Now, actually, I got to see it 2 times, so I can make sure I give you a good recommendation, talk about a couple of highlights, and possibly where they're going in the future, some of my personal fan theories. All right, let's kick this off though. I want to announce the winner from my previous video I made when I compared hot sauces with hot comic book characters. So I had a challenge at the end of the first video, and I finally did get a winner. So a big congratulations to PDO 2011. You answered all the questions correctly, and you are going to receive this amazing Spider-Man issue 117 Disney 100-year variant. Congratulations, it'll be in the mail coming to you pretty soon. All right, so just kind of a quick recap. The questions were: 1, which X-Men character has now become a spirit of vengeance? Former X-Men in a special book called Immortal X-Men. And that character is Banshee. So old school character, check him out if you get a chance. Bonus, he just added another person who was an X-Men villain, and it kind of used him as a steed. In this book, it said that all Ghost Riders kind of need a vehicle or some kind of way of transportation, and he actually kind of used Juggernaut as his steed. So it's a cool combination, but definitely check out Immortal X-Men. Question 2, which What If cover did this book come from? And it came from What If issue number 29. That was the second question, so that was a good dead shot. And the final question was what popped up on the screen in my very first video at the 1 minute and 35 second mark. That's when I went to the Marvel exhibit here in Chicago at the Museum of Science and Industry. That was last year. And what popped up at that mark is the actual Amazing Fantasy number 15 in which Spider-Man premiered. So congratulations once again to PDCO 2011 for getting all those questions right. Your book will be in the mail soon. Now let's talk about Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania. So before I get into any specific, this is a spoiler video for Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania. So if you have not watched the movie yet, go watch that, watch another video of mine, come back here and then check this video out for my honest review. So looking at the movie and having seen it twice, I have to say that for an Ant-Man movie, it's pretty good. It's not the worst in the Marvel catalog, but it's also not the top tier. So I'll give it a nice even C if I was looking at it from a grade level, or maybe even a C+, because it's a little bit higher, but not too great.
What did he say?
One of the main things I enjoyed in this movie is the amount of time they spent in the quantum realm. If you recall from the very first 2 Ant-Man movies, we did get to see a little bit of time in the quantum realm, but not a whole lot, right? First one, very little. Second one, we got to explore when we kind of found out that's where Janet was and kind of got to see her there a little bit. And we did explore just a tiny bit in some of the other movies that connected, but we didn't really get to spend a large amount of time in the quantum realm. This movie, practically the entire movie is in the quantum realm. So the movie kind of kicks off with Ant-Man kind of just being a local celebrity after Endgame, right? He's in San Francisco, he's kind of walking around, people looking at him, laughing, enjoying him, and seeing him, recognizing him. He gets a few perks. Some people kind of mistake who he is. You saw that in the trailer. But the biggest thing is that he wrote a book, and he's doing a live reading of the book, and he's just kind of living a regular life. However, his daughter Cassie is kind of like an activist right now in the movie. She's kind of fighting her own battles, but she's kind of following the same path as being arrested, but it's for a good cause. So it kind of spirals from there, and Cassie talking about exploring and learning more about the quantum realm. She kind of talks to her dad and her adoptive grandparents, and Hope is saying that, they've been teaching her how to explore the quantum realm, and she's basically saying, if I would have done this when you were gone, maybe I could have found you. And so it's this heart-wrenching moment. But Scott, on one hand, doesn't want her going in because they've had warnings before about not going to the quantum realm. So here's where it gets a little contradictory for me. If you remember at the end of Ant-Man and the Wasp, right? Janet's finally back. It's that bonus scene where they're going back into the quantum realm one more time, right? Scott goes, and that's when everybody gets dusted, and he's stuck there. But here's my thing. It didn't seem that Janet was so adverse to going into the quantum realm back then. However, in this movie, she is kind of like, do not go. There's no reason to be back there. There's nothing there. No. So if that threat level was still there at that point in time, I'm kind of like, why didn't she kind of object more to not going to the quantum realm in Ant-Man and Wasp? That's one little thing that little idiosyncrasy that they could have tightened up a little bit. So Marvel, get the right just a little bit better. You know, it was good, but I need you to kind of keep those things consistent. So the next part you kind of seen in the trailer, right? Cassie has this device that's able to send a signal down to the quantum realm. Janet's like, whoa, wait a minute, you're sending a signal. She's like, I only wanted to map it so I can find out what's going on. And she like demands that she shut it off right away. So that happens, and then we get this scene where now a signal has come back from the quantum realm and it sucks everybody in. And that's kind of where we get on our adventure and started to explore the quantum realm. And there's a big name change in the MCU versus in the comics. In the comics, this realm is known as the microverse. We kind of learned a lot of it with Mr. Fantastic and the Fantastic Four exploring it a lot. We didn't really have a lot with Ant-Man going there. This was more like a Reed Richards Fantastic Four adventure kind of going into the quantum realm. And there are some characters in the Marvel comics that come from the quantum realm. One of them you may have heard of called Annihilus. He's like this bug insectoid character. He's like rules down there. And one of my favorite yet strange characters is this person called Psycho Man. I know, really messed up name. He carries this like box that kind of like has emotions on it. It's able to project whatever the emotion he selects to come out and people feel that way. So if it's anger on it, he projects that out and he can like stand in a crowd of people and they will start to all get angry and mad or sadness or any emotion he chooses. But it's usually darker emotions for more nefarious reasons to him controlling things. But this movie focuses more on a person trapped in the quantum realm, which is Kang the Conqueror. And I do have to say, you got to give it up for Jonathan Majors in this role. He steals every scene he's in, and it's almost terrifying when he's on screen. Like you get this sense of like, oh my God, what is he gonna do next? I hope nothing bad happens, because you just know the way Kang is set up, he's just gonna just destroy anything. If things don't go his way, he's gonna make sure you understand why they need to go his way. So I like the aspect of the movie how Kang talks about him not really paying attention or following the rules of time. He's like, I don't follow time the way you all follow it. Like you have to realize time is not a thing that you can abide to. Like, if you learn to let go of time, you become the master of it. And basically he's saying that I need to get out of this quantum realm. He was exiled and put there. So in the beginning, they don't really tell you who sent Kang to the quantum realm, but all he knows is that he gets to get out. And this is where he meets Janet. Janet has been stuck there for several years, and she sees him come into the quantum realm and she goes to assist. And because she hadn't really talked to anyone in a while since she's been there, they built this friendship and this bond, and they kind of work together to try to get them out, because he promises her, like, I can get you home. And that's, of course, what she wants. The long short of the story with Kang and Janet is that his device that helps him control his time chair has been damaged. And so they've been working to try to get it fixed again, and eventually they do, spoiler warning. And as she connects it and like getting ready to go home, she's able to touch it, and it's connected directly to Kang's like his consciousness, and she sees all the evil he's done and decides that he can't go back. So I know I want to go back, but if I let him out, it's no telling how many worlds and universes he will destroy. So she kind of keeps him there using PIM particles. She does use those PIM particles to expand his device to the size that's like almost an entire city. So he realized he's trapped, and from there he builds his own like city, which in the comics is called Chronopolis, right? It's like his time-based city. And that's kind of that version of Chronopolis in the MCU. It's his empire within the quantum realm. As everyone is traveling to the quantum realm, they kind of all get dispersed in like different locations, and then they kind of groups kind of meet together. It kind of reminds me of Guardians of the Galaxy 2 when they kind of broke off to do two separate missions. That kind of happens in this movie too. So you have Hank and Janet with Wasp, and then you have Cassie and Scott together. So the funny story is really with Cassie and Scott, because they meet these strange travelers, and they realize that there are people in the quantum realm like they didn't know. So a funny scene, which I love 100%, is that they can't understand the language. Like, they can't understand each other. And so they get separated, and Scott's like walking off, and they're like taking him almost like he's gonna kill him or put him in jail possibly. And he's like, "Where's Cassie?" And he sees her like on this range, like up on this range somewhere in the quantum realm. And he has like this red goo on her mouth, almost looks like blood. And she tells him, "Drink the ooze," and he's like, "What?" And this really weird, one of my favorite characters from the movie, I can't even remember his name. It's like this blob type of creature, like kind of like snail eyes or antenna. And he's like trying to talk and communicate with Scott. And he can't understand him. And then they kind of like hold him back, and it looks like they're about to execute him. And they kind of hold his head open, and these two people come out with this container, and they pour that same liquid that you see on Cassie's face in his mouth. And he kind of like rejecting it, but then he does eventually take it. And all he can hear is everyone's chanting, and they say, "Drink the ooze." Now, moving on to Hank, Wasp, and Janet. Like, Janet is telling them, like, they need to be careful. Kang is looking for them. He sent this machine out to kind of scan the area, trying to find them. And they kind of get away and go to like a desert looking area where Janet encounters some old like freedom fighters she used to know, some of the resistance going against Kang. They have this big battle, and eventually they realize, like, Hank and Wasp realize they're friends, and they give them assistance in order to get to meet this person that Janet used to know back in the quantum realm. This is also a little strange. It's this character that Bill Murray plays that a lot of people were kind of trying to guess what his role would be. And this character has only been in the Marvel Comics for one issue. The same issue he premiered in, he also died in. So really a throwaway character, and kind of a throwaway character in this movie too. But she talks and tries to say, like, I need to help you find my friends. And it comes to find out that this person is now working for Kang. So when Janet left, I guess he surrendered and he became persuaded by Kang to work for him. So he tells them that, you're gonna go meet Kang, you're gonna go have a conversation, and a fight ensues and they get away. So before that though, Bill Murray's character tells him that Kang has sent this creature to look for them. And they were like, "Well, who's coming?" It's like, "Oh, it's not quite a man, not quite a machine, but a mechanized organism designed only for killing." And for those of you who are Marvel fans, you know that is the acronym for MODOK, right? This big-haired creature who is extremely intelligent. And one thing I have to say, this is kind of one of my down parts of Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania. So the design of MODOK looks pretty good. I'm not gonna lie. I like the way he looks with all the extensions, with all the weapons coming out, giant head mask, all that looks really good. It's when the mask comes off. The CGI, even though it's better than it used to be, it looks really bad to me. Like, I didn't agree with the way it looks. I didn't agree with the explanation of who MODOK is. I kind of get how they came up with it, but that spoiler was kind of given away early on when some people were analyzing the trailer and they showed stills, and I was like, no, this can't be what it is, and it actually is. Darren Cross. If you remember from the very first Ant-Man movie, he was Yellow Jacket, and Scott messed with his device at the end, and he shrunk, like parts of him was shrinking, like his hands and arm, and then he just disappeared. Well, he landed in the quantum realm, and Kang found him, cleaned him up, helped him out, and gave him all these enhancements to make him MODOK. Theory is okay, but the look is just so bad. Like, for me, it's unforgivable. Like, I was expecting MODOK to be something else, or someone else, not Darren Cross. I can see how they all put that together, but it didn't pan out well for me as far as a good story arc. Like, and another thing, like, they brought MODOK in, and then they killed him off. Like, it serves to me no purpose. Like, the movie could have been better without MODOK even being in it. Like, this is not the MODOK I'm used to. The MODOK I'm used to is kind of like crazy, insane. Also, because of his enormous head size, and he also has psychic abilities, so he can shoot from this gem in his head, like psychic shots out. He can read people's mind, control people's mind. He's super intelligent. We didn't get any of that in this movie. We just got Darren Cross as a result of what happened from the Yellow Jacket treatment, given these weapons and enhancements, and now he's like an errand boy for Kang. So I didn't really like that version of him. I hope they kind of clean it up if they are able to ever go back to it and saying that was like a one-off of MODOK and we can get MODOK 2.0, which is the real like insane maniacal MODOK. So if you ever played the Avengers game, this is the MODOK I'm talking about. Check this out.
You struggle against the unstoppable tide of progress, Avengers.
This just got a whole lot weirder.
What has happened to his face? You can slow me down, but I have enough mist to blanket the world.
That's what I'm looking for in my MODOK, not the one we got in the movie. Okay, moving on, skipping into a lot of parts, kind of getting to some of the better scenes. Going back to Kang, Jonathan Majors, once again, bravo, sir. You did your thing as you've always done. When Kang comes in and meets Scott and Cassie in his detention center, it's one of the most terrifying scenes in the movie. Like how he treats everyone and how everyone's kind of like afraid and bows down to him. You really feel the threat of Kang the Conqueror. You know, it's to the point where MODOK is there too, and he's saying something, and he like pins him against the wall with just like a wave of his hand, using his devices, saying, "Look, don't speak when I'm in the room. You know better." And I'm just like, wow, like this dude is scary. So a little quick backstory on Kang. Kang is from the 31st century. His name is actually Nathaniel Richards, and he is rumored to be a descendant of Reed Richards. So I kind of get the intelligence, the craziness, all of it makes sense. So he kind of got bored in his timeline, and he basically discovered how to go through time, and he's put himself in pinnacle points in time to change it to his purpose. Like he's never really revealed his true plan, but he wants to just make things the way he wants it. And since he has basically mastered time, he can do anything he wants, right? Like he's seen stuff happen before. He knows what's going to happen. So there's not too much that's new for him. One of the better scenes in the movie is when him and Ant-Man are fighting, and he was like, you know, do you think you're going to win? Like, I've done this before. Like, you know how many Avengers I've killed? Like, you know, I know how everything's going to end. Like, you don't want that ending. This was also alluded to in Loki season 1 at the end when they met He Who Remains. Now, a lot of people don't think this, but I want to be very clear. He Who Remains and Kang the Conqueror are two different people. They are variants of each other. And he Who Remains had already warned everybody, you don't want to meet my variants because they're not really good people. You know, and that kind of was also kind of resurfaced and talked about and discussed in this movie as well. So Kang the Conqueror is considered to be like prime Kang. He's like, all my others are the ones who sent me to exile. They were afraid of me, of what I was going to do. So I know what they're planning. Like, you know, you should be worried about them. Like, you need to let me go fix time and I can get revenge on them and make sure what they have planned won't ever happen. You know, Jonathan Majors produces a great line in this movie when he says, you know, I've seen what they're capable of. You don't want that. He's basically telling Ant-Man, you don't want this smoke. Like, you don't want to have to deal with what the Kangs have planned. Like, they will destroy the multiverse. You don't understand that. That means the end of everything. With all these things called incursions. That's when the worlds are starting to fuse and collide upon each other and destroy each other. Right, and that was also explored in the Avengers comics. But overall, we had a good movie. I still would suggest go see Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania. It does go into the timeline, which will help lead into the next big movie, which is Secret Wars. So I know right now a lot of people have complained that Marvel's been lacking in the movies. They haven't reached that height like they used to. And I agree, they have not. But I'm going to split the difference here. So one, I think with them focusing on the TV shows have been pretty great, as well as trying to build this new universe. Because you got to think about it. From Iron Man 1 to Endgame was 10 years, right? They had to build that story arc. So we are back at that beginning phase of the MCU. We are back at phase 1, like with the first couple of movies. So we got to get through some of this information to get to Secret Wars. Now, is that an excuse? No. However, I think we just need to have a little bit more patience and think about how all of this stuff is going to connect. So the new Secret Wars movie is loosely going to be based off the second Secret Wars book. The original one focused on Dr. Doom. Back in the 80s is where we got the first Black Spider-Man symbiote costume from. The new book is really focused on Dr. Doom again, but it's about him taking over and kind of creating something called Battle World, where he kind of took all those incursion pieces of the worlds and smashed them together to create his perfect universe. I think the MCU is going to change that and go with Kang being the person to do that. But it is a way to bring in everyone else. So if you saw that very first end scene, that very first bonus scene, you got to see something that I didn't think they were going to show this soon in the MCU. It's the Council of Kangs. So this is what also helps Kang be above everyone else. He developed this council of all his variants where they would meet like once a year to discuss plots, plan, and what's going to happen. So in this end scene, you get to see that 3 of the Kangs are meeting and talking. So you have Rama-Tut Kang, who actually sent himself back to ancient Egypt to become King Tut. So he took over that whole time. And then you have like a futuristic Kang, who's kind of probably from the 31st century or even further ahead, who kind of like knows everything about what's going to happen. And then you have Immortus, which is another name for Kang, which is one who had that like long head and all those robes. So those are the 3 ones that have been pretty popular throughout the Marvel universe. And they kind of meet to say, hey, we've contacted all the Kangs because Kang the Conqueror is dead. Now, I don't think he actually died. All right, I don't think so. But let me get to that in a second. So I want to talk briefly about some of the other councils that have existed in the Marvel Universe. So one of the first ones that I knew about was the Interdimensional Council of Reeds. So this is when Mr. Fantastic, like dealing with Doom and Kang stuff, he also mastered time. And he meets with his variants once a year as well to discuss plans. So it's all these different Reed Richards that meet and just super intelligent. And you can only imagine what they've discussed and how to help each other. We've also had the Council of Lokis. So you got a little taste of the Loki variants if you watch Loki season 1 on Disney Plus. But he's also met, annually with his variants to kind of change his storyline. Like, instead of being the king of lies and the king of mischief, he's kind of tried to be good a little bit. He's kind of had all these other hidden plots and agendas. He's always up to something. And part of that is because he has talked to his other variants and they kind of have this plan, which has never truly been revealed, to kind of take over everything. So that's part of that. Most recently, we have the Council of Mephisto. I know we've been waiting for Mephisto to appear in the MCU, but he is finally coming in, I think, the Agatha Harkness series on Disney Plus. But Mephisto, this is recent, has met with his variants to take over, Pale on Earth, multiple Earths, and then therefore stop the Avengers. It's taking place right now in a book called Avengers Forever. So finally, we have my fan theory. At the end of the movie, it seems like Kang the Conqueror gets hit into his multiverse engine and he's kind of like sucked in. And they think that he's dead. I don't think so. I think Marvel is kind of baiting us with this ending of the Prime Kang the Conqueror. And here's my theory of what I think is really going to happen.
Everybody who goes in an ambulance car, throw your hands up. If you go in an ambulance car.
So this Secret Wars, the original one, was brought on by this character called the Beyonder. Real flashy guy, doesn't really fit today's time periods, but he brought the heroes and villains together to fight for ultimate supremacy in something called Battle World, where he had to fight each other, try to figure out who was the best one, right? And the Beyonder is this all-powerful being who can just mess with anybody in any universe at any point he wants to. And he's doing all this for fun because he's kind of like bored. So my theory is that this Kang the Conqueror who disappeared in the multiverse engine, I think he's not dead. I think they're going to use him and make him the version of the Beyonder. And therefore, because he knows what's going to happen, he's going to bring about the Secret Wars and bring all these different pieces of these incursions together to make his version of the Battle World in order to rule over everything. So that is my fan theory. We'll see if this comes true. Hopefully it does. Alright, well, if you like this video, don't forget to give it a like. And if you like the content, drop a comment below. Let me know your theories. If I think my theory is so far-fetched, let me know what you think about theories for Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell to know when new content drops just like this. Until next time, peace. What's up? We are talking about fiction and flow. What's up? If you don't have it, you are truly missing out. What's up? We are talking about fiction and flow. What's up?